All right, we're about to dive into a hidden world, a topic that's, yeah, a little unsettling, but honestly, it's absolutely fascinating. We're talking about the unseen invaders living all around us and sometimes inside us, parasitic worms, also known as helminths. Think about it for a second. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, right? But for millions of people around the world, this is a real thing. These are the ultimate uninvited guests, and trust me, they have no plans to leave on their own. So what exactly are these things? Well, a parasitic worm is an organism with a pretty simple mission: find a host and live inside it. They rely on that host for everything. We're talking food, shelter, a place to reproduce. Take away the host and they just can't make it. To really understand these invaders, we have to know who we're looking for. So think of this next part as our detective briefing. We're going to identify the three main groups of culprits, our primary suspects in the world of parasitic worms. Let's open the case file on our first suspect. This group is one of the most common ones out there. You might know them by the name roundworms. So what do they look like? Here's a description that, yeah, it's a little gross, but it's also incredibly memorable. They are, quite literally, shaped like spaghetti. It's a picture that's kind of hard to shake once you hear it. Their favorite hangout spot is usually the intestines. This group includes some well-known members like pinworms, super common in kids, and hookworms, which have this really stealthy way of getting in. They can actually burrow right through the skin on your bare feet. And their main survival trick, they lay a ton of eggs, which makes them spread like wildfire. All right, time for our next person of interest. This one looks different and operates differently. Let's meet suspect number 2, the flatworms. And here's where you see a big difference in appearance. If roundworms are spaghetti, then flatworms are more like thin, flat leaves. And that unique shape actually plays a big part in where and how they live inside a host. See, unlike roundworms, flatworms often set up shop in organs like the liver, the lungs, or even right in your bloodstream. You're most likely to cross paths with them in contaminated fresh water. And their life cycle is like some kind of complicated spy story. It often involves other animals like snails or fish before they can even get to a human. And now for our final and maybe the most famous suspect in the lineup, the one everybody's heard of, suspect number 3, the tapeworm. Tapeworms are built for one thing, and one thing only: to hold on. They're these long, ribbon-like creatures, but the truly menacing part is their head. It's armed with hooks or suckers, and that's how they latch on to the inside of your intestines and just refuse to let go. Okay, you might want to brace yourself for this one. How long do you think a tapeworm can get? A few inches? Maybe a foot? Nope. Try again. Some tapeworms can grow to be over 10 meters long. That is longer than a school bus. It is a truly mind-blowing, not-so-fun fact. So what's their game? They are professional nutrient thieves. They literally just absorb the food you eat right through their skin before your body even gets a crack at it. And the most common way they get in? Undercooked meat. We're talking beef, pork, or fish. So we've met our suspects. Now let's dig into their methods. How do these uninvited guests actually get past our defenses and set up shop in the first place? Let's trace the path of infection. It usually follows a pretty simple 4-step pattern. First, you've got the eggs or larvae just hanging out in the environment. Second, they find a way into a body. Third, once they're inside, they grow up into adult worms. And finally, as their numbers increase, you might start to see symptoms. The ways they get in are often tied to our everyday lives. Eating meat that's not quite cooked through, drinking contaminated water, forgetting to wash your hands, walking barefoot outside, or even just playing with your pets. These are all potential doorways for an infection. And here's a key piece of evidence. Their eggs are incredibly tough. They're usually microscopic, totally invisible, and they can survive for weeks on surfaces like doorknobs or toys, just waiting around for a new host to pick them up. So what does an infection actually feel like? Well, here's the tricky part. It really varies. You could have digestive problems like stomach pain, or more general stuff like feeling tired all the time or losing weight for no reason. Sometimes the signs are more obvious, like a rash or, well, seeing worms. But a lot of the time, people can have an infection and have no major symptoms at all. Okay, we've looked at the suspects and their methods. Now let's get to the most important part: building your defense.
we're going to talk about your prevention toolkit and how you can protect yourself from these invaders.
The good news is, prevention is not complicated. It all comes down to simple but powerful habits. Things we should be doing anyway. Washing our hands, especially before we eat. Cooking meat all the way through. Giving fruits and vegetables a good wash. And wearing shoes when you're outside. These little actions create a really strong shield. When you lay it out like this, it's a pretty simple choice, isn't it? On one side, you've got the risky habits that basically leave the door wide open for infection, and on the other, you've got the safe habits that slam that door shut. It's amazing how a few simple choices can make such a huge difference. But look, what if, even with all your best efforts, an invader gets through? The most important thing to remember is this: it is not a life sentence. The really good news is that with modern medicine, most of these infections are absolutely treatable. A doctor can figure out exactly what kind of worm it is, usually with a stool or blood sample. After that, treatment is typically just a course of anti-parasitic medicine. These drugs are pretty clever. They're designed to either paralyze or kill the worms, which lets your body get rid of them. And the best part? Most people start feeling better and recover really quickly. So, we've definitely shed some light on these unseen invaders. But it really makes you think, doesn't it? Parasitic worms are just one tiny part of this huge, invisible world of organisms living all around us, and even inside of us. What other microscopic universes are just out there, waiting to be discovered?